A hero is only as good as their villain. It's a good thing Marvel has kept up a strong roster of adversaries to keep us glued to our seats. Some of those villains can add scene stealing to their list of offenses, am I right? They often outshine our heroes with their flair, their style, and their presentation. And at the end of the day, a few of them tend to have a point. Whether through charm, brilliance, or just being all too relatable, these Marvel villains have just been too good to hate. Let's get started. We can sympathize with the plight of Adrian Toomes. A world-changing, large-scale event occurs, resulting in a huge change to small businesses and a large loss of income to the everyday person. Pretty relatable. Plus, the guy has a family to care for. He was pretty resourceful in finding a new source of income, managing to adapt to the situation. Was his method entirely moral and legal? Not really, but you gotta work with what you got, especially when government-supported billion-dollar companies swoop in and tank your business. So the Vulture sits in a pretty familiar spot, aside from the sweet set of wings he's sporting. Plus, Michael Keaton is a joy in another bird-themed character role. Can't blame the guy for trying, can't hate him for trying to survive, right? So it's not any sort of redeemable goal or morals here. Ultron has one thing in mind, that being a mass extinction event. What really makes him endearing is the fun penchant for banter he inherited from his creator. His clever and snarky humor, seemingly downloaded straight from the mind of Tony Stark, makes him incredibly enjoyable to watch. Hearing him poke a bit of fun at the situation, no matter how grave, adds a bit of intrigue that's fascinating. He's calm, cool, and collected for the majority of his screen time, and he got close to succeeding too. Something is weirdly eerie yet charming about hearing him sing that little tune from Pinocchio. He's got no strings, but he's still pulling our full attention. The original big bad of the Avengers, he is the force that brought the team together and has been a fan favorite since day one. It's Loki, ever the charming and sly god of mischief. His work as the perfect foil to Thor is always enjoyable. Their banter has only gotten better throughout the MCU, leaving us rooting for the silver-tongued Asgardian on more than one occasion. The wit and charisma brought to the role by Tom Hiddleston is a huge reason for his popularity and continued spot in the heart of Marvel fans. He's stuck it out long enough to score his own show, proving he's still in the top tier of fan faves. Though he's gone through some changes. Bordering close to a redemption arc, the show will be following a new version of Loki, who is fresh off the Battle of New York, meaning his villainy is still in his prime. Still gonna be a bad guy for a while, but we love him anyway. Alright, I'm fully gonna blame Kurt Russell for the likability of Ego. He's a real bad customer. Dedicated to his true mission, he gave up his potential happiness in order to continue this quest, even if that meant removing who seemed to be the one love of his very, 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 very long life. And the mother of one of his kids. Not that he super cared for any of his kids previously. Ego is not winning any Dad of the Year awards anytime soon, but he's gotta try and convince Peter to side with him. This charm applied directly to Quill is transferred onto the audience, seeing his best side as he connects with his long-lost son. Once the bombshell drops of his many murders of countless children, he loses a whole bunch of support. But he had us there for a second. That Santa Chronicles charm of jolly old Kurt Russell held us for a few moments longer than expected. Now, there is some contention on whether or not Wanda can be counted as a villain. Regardless of how her story will end, she has shown her strengths as an antagonist in multiple events. From her initial appearance to her current status as the center of the Maximoff anomaly, her power is certainly something to be feared. Since she has served as a hero alongside the Avengers, we can't help but support her to a certain extent. We've seen her grow into a full-fledged hero from her origins, her powers growing as she gains more and more control over them. And we've also seen firsthand all the pain she's endured through the loss of her brother, the sinister blip incident, and the loss of Vision. Now, with the Vision returned to her, she seems reluctant to compromise anything in her new life. and many of us just want to see her happy. Is keeping a whole town in a non-voluntary decade-hopping pseudo-sitcom the best way to cope? Not really. Reality warping to make people forget their own loved ones in order to keep running this fake town? Really digging yourself a deep hole here, Wanda. Despite it all, we still can't find it in our hearts to hate her for any of it. There's still some loyal supporters here in your corner, Miss Maximoff. Here's hoping for a happy ending to the saga of WandaVision. Thor Ragnarok was an absolute delight of a movie, but it wouldn't be complete without the sinister destroyer of Asgard. We aren't necessarily cheering for Hela's victory over the Sons of Odin, but man, she makes it hard not to root for her. Being absolutely stunning and powerful is a real good crowd pleaser. She exudes power. Plus, her drive to take over isn't fully unwarranted. She is firstborn, and therefore the proper heir to the throne. Also, getting scrubbed out of history and imprisoned by your own father only to be freed after his death really does sting a fair bit. Alluring and frightening, thanks to an excellent portrayal by Cate Blanchett, Hela is a villainess who you just want to see more from. Maybe in this new timeline, she will reemerge. We can only hope for an encore from the goddess of death. So, Killmonger has a point. Not fully, there's a lot wrong with his plan and end goal. Anyone who burned sacred ground to ensure there are no other kings is probably not the best choice for the leader of a country. Wakanda does have a plethora of resources that they managed to keep away from the rest of the world. Well, they've kept their whole country away from the rest of the world for so long, an act that can certainly seem selfish to those on the outside, especially to someone like the young Eric Stevens. He saw the injustice and pain endured by many people outside of Wakanda, prejudice and discrimination aplenty. He saw much of the wealth and resources of Wakanda as something to be used to help those who are downtrodden. He thought he was doing the right thing, but his methods are extreme. He's fought his whole life to reclaim some power, losing his family at such a young age. A mix of ambition, dreams, and charisma, thanks to the excellent portrayal by Michael B. Jordan, leaves us wanting to see Killmonger succeed despite ourselves. His impact is not forgotten. With the gates to Wakanda now open to the world, he did manage to leave his mark. Zemo did well for himself before the Sokovia incident, balancing a very demanding job and still having a family. Unfortunately, the havoc brought on by Ultron devastated his world and led him down a path of revenge, eventually targeting all his anger at the Avengers, who he held responsible for the tragedy. And in that sense, he's not completely wrong. Tony Stark and Dr. Banner did have a major hand in bringing Ultron to life, which of course caused the incident in Sokovia. Zemo may seem an odd fit for this list, since he's cold and calculating in his approach to tearing the team of heroes apart, something he does remarkably well. He executes every stage of his plan with complete efficiency. He enacted this plan alone. Every single detail is carried out by his own hands. But that level of dedication and commitment isn't brought on by boredom or want for chaos. It's all for his revenge, for the desire he has to see the Avengers fall. That ambition is insane, and the root of this ambition is out of grief. He may have had some extra skills from his military training, but he was just an ordinary guy driven by extreme circumstances. Even if we don't want to see him succeed, we can't hate him for what he's doing. Mysterio walks around as a guy with a fishbowl on his head and is still taken seriously? That's some mad charisma to start with. Mysterio came in like a bolt of lightning to try and make a name for himself in the post-blip world, a new age of heroes with him in the mix. His whole plan required him to be as likable as possible. He had to appeal to the whole world as the newest and greatest hero to ever walk this earth. How can we not like him? He had Peter's trust pretty wholeheartedly for a good while too, and he helped him out. Tony's death left Peter with a lot on his plate. Being entrusted with such a valuable piece of tech, being an Avenger, dealing with the fact that he was dead for 5 years, all of that stuff. Our friendly neighborhood Spider-Man is still only 16. Mysterio was there to help him out, and was also there to help him take on some of that responsibility. Or so it seemed. Even when it's revealed that he's running quite the elaborate scam, it's hard to fully hate the guy. Tony Stark has done a lot of bad in the past, and just cause he's gone doesn't mean all that just goes away. He really screwed over Quentin Beck and so many others, enough that they decided to fight back in their own way. So Mysterio may have done some huge damage to the world, but we still can't muster up a full batch of hate for him either way. Bucky Barnes. Once upon a time, he was best friends and a fellow soldier with Steve Rogers, standing by him even before his full body makeover. Fate had a rough plan for the brave soldier though, putting him into a real rough cycle of defrosting and refreezing. Though it kept him alive long enough to reunite with his friend, sure, but their reunion placed them back into yet another war, this time as adversaries. But even with the two friends struggling in a super soldier battle royale, we were rooting for Bucky to make it out of this okay. Cap wasn't going to lose his friend without a struggle, meaning that we as an audience weren't going to let go so easy either. A tragic fallen hero manipulated to work for the secret evil organization? That's some juicy stuff right there. We know now that Bucky got his redemption arc. Took a good bit of time though, and some deprogramming from his Winter Soldier days. But he managed to get back to being a hero, now with an upcoming show in the works too. Proves that his popularity hasn't waned too much now that he's a good guy. It's hard to keep a good villain down, and no matter if they are bad to the core or have a silver lining, there will never be an end to the adversaries of the MCU. And there are many more to choose from, but I'm sure we will see a good amount of them in Spider-Man 3. Anywho, thanks for watching, catch you next time.